I guess I started riding horses when I was probably 13 or so, and didn't really run barrels until I was probably 15 or 16. And I'm from Maryland, so there's not a whole lot up there. And I just started doing that, and I liked it. I liked some 4-H shows, and I met somebody that kind of was more serious about it, and started riding around with her. And then she had a couple colts, and started riding the colts, and I started really liking that. And then just kind of started going and buying a couple colts, and then I didn't like real work, so I thought I could make a living doing this. Still not sure if I can, but trying. And then just, I guess, meeting different people along the way, and then kind of learning and finding other people that did it and asking them how to do it and things like that. And then meeting a couple different owners, and kind of a couple owners got real serious about it, and we just kind of went from there, I guess, and just kept building and kind of kept getting better horses, then going better places and learning more stuff, and just kind of all worked out. The driving is awful. Like I've put probably, I don't know, 160,000 miles on my truck, and I've had it only a couple years now. And like coming out here to Ardmore to the Futurity, we left at 7 o'clock the other morning, and we pulled in at 7 o'clock 2 days later in the evening. So it's like takes us 2 days to get anywhere. It's going to take us 2 days to get home, and I feel like you lose a lot there, just time-wise, and just being stuck in the truck. And then being at home, there is some nice barrel races up there, and there's some good horses. There's just not as many. But it's hard to haul a lot of colts and get everything done at once. And I think that's probably the biggest trouble we have. And then, like, to go to the vet, it's like 4 or 5 hours to get to a good vet that does lameness and stuff. And he's a really good vet, do both of them. They do standard bred, so there's not many quarter horses up there. So it's different, but they do a good job. But I think that just being so far from the main everything has been tough, but we get through it. I don't know, we've considered moving, but I don't know if I'm breaking news here, but you don't make a whole lot training horses. So really, my family has a farm there. They've been there like over 100 years, and my grandfather let me build a barn on his place there, so I built a barn and built an arena, built some pastures, and pretty well set up there, and a lot of family support. It's like when we leave, like, I don't have to worry about the horses or who's taking care of them. If somebody's going to show up and feed them, it's families there, and they know what to do, and they're really sharp on everything, and there's a lot of help. Like they have a trucking company and equipment, and so it's kind of hard to leave all that support, really. Like Craig Brooks, when I first started coming, I think the first time I went to Oklahoma City, I met him in Memphis on our way to Oklahoma City, and just got talking to him there and saw he had nice horses, and we just got talking and got to be pretty good friends with him, and just bouncing ideas off of him, asking him questions, rode with him a couple different times, stayed down there for like a week or so here and there. He helped me a bunch. Then kind of going from there, went and stayed in Georgia for the winter, because it's hard to winter up in Maryland. We usually leave at Bob Hamilton's place, and Cody Bowserman was staying there at the same time. So then I was there for like 3 or 4 months, and Cody was there the same amount of time, and every day I got to ride with him. And even if I wasn't riding with him, or really wasn't riding with him, I'd just sit there and watch him, and he's a great guy to talk to and stuff. And just as a competitor, there's nobody better. And like I learned a lot about that, and just seriousness, and like what to do, and like how you can make a horse do something, and how hard you can push him, and where you need to back off. And learned a lot from just being around him all the time, and a lot of stuff. Then Cassie Mowry, I've learned a bunch from her, and she's probably one of the best people I've ever met. And I learned a lot from her. From that time when I stayed in Georgia, and I started was getting better horses, and I had already had Rocco, the Sucker Punch, at that point, and he was my first one that really, the horse taught me a lot. But from there, meeting Cody, then to Cassie's, like right then is where I think I really learned how to win. Is that like after that year I stayed around Cody a bunch. I think I won like 170,000 that year or something, which was by far the biggest year I ever had. And the next year was like 280, and then the year after that was when I won like that 460. And it was all right around hanging out with those people, and like those people helped me a ton. I guess the BFA, that was kind of unreal. Like I remember thinking about it before I went, because I just had the best group of horses I've ever had in the trailer. Like I had Mr. as a juvenile, the Mr. Kelly, and I knew he was a great one. But that was his first run, and then I think I had the Folsom Prisoner and the Dark Patch Patsy and the Futurity, and those were two really good horses. And then I had Rocco, the VQ Sucker Punch, and Stoney, a Cornerstone, those two in the Derby. So like I had 5 horses that I felt like I could win anywhere in the country on, and then going to the juvenile for that. And then the other 3-year-olds, I had one for Samantha that she had a fusing hock, so she was kind of hit or miss whether she was ready or not, but she was super capable, and I had her also. And so I really had 6 that I knew were really good horses that could clock. I remember thinking, like on the way out there, just, daydreaming, thinking, man, that'd be cool, you could win everything out there. And then it kind of worked out, and it's kind of unreal. Like, it was kind of weird. I remember after I ran the Derby, the last one, and he was winning it, and there was only like 3 left. It was, I don't know, it kind of just felt really weird, but it was a good week for sure. I mean, Rocco, Sucker Punch, he's the kindest horse I've ever been around. He is so concerned about you. He's super herd-bound, a little bit insecure in himself. Like, when he was a colt and I was hauling him, if I had 2 horses tied to the trailer and I took the one away from him, he'd lose his mind. Like, and he was like that with you too. Like I remember one time at Diamonds and Dirt, I took him, tied him to the trailer to saddle him, and my truck was parked behind the trailer. I walked around to the truck and got in the truck to get something. I could see him the whole way, he's just watching me. And then I get in the truck and then he just starts screaming and losing his mind, and then I get out and then he stops. Like, just a horse like that cares that much about you is pretty cool. Him, and then, I mean, Mister, he's an awesome horse for sure, but he's big ego, big stud. Like, he was definitely a cool horse to be around. Then Stoney is probably one of the coolest horses I've ever been around, and just the whole deal with him, with Sarah being a real good friend of mine, the reason I got him. But seeing him change from like when I first got on him to now. Like, I remember when I brought him in, and he's a little bit immature horse. He's 5, but he was still gangly and kind of like looked like a giraffe. And I remember like the 2 girls I had working for me, they're like kind of looking at me funny, like, why'd you go all the way to Tennessee to pick this horse up? And then he'd stay in his stall and just be real kind of standoffish, just like you wouldn't even know he was there. You had to kind of look in the stall to find him. Now, like, you come in the barn and he tells you he's there. Like, his head's out, he's yelling at you, he's bowed up and proud. And like, I've never seen a horse just change that much, just get so much confidence in this. I think he just knows what he is now, and he's proud of himself. And it's pretty cool to see a horse change like that. And then just one of that caliber, and he's just a freak, and just cool to be around. And it was fun to have him win when he did before Sarah passed, and so she got to see most of it. So he's a pretty cool horse. Horses I do think they're born winners, and you just kind of have to keep that out of them. Like those great horses I've been on, like they were like that. Like, I think they were made to win, and just keeping the confidence in them and not getting after them too bad. Like, keeping respect in them. Like, you can't let one walk all over you or just do whatever they want, but let them make mistakes and let them figure it out on their own, and bringing them along that way and kind of taking your time, I think, is really what makes them great horses. And kind of getting on the same page as them is the biggest thing. Because I think if a horse fears you, he'll do it for a little while, but eventually you won't scare him enough. But if a horse respects you, he'll do it forever. And I feel like they got to take over, and they got to want to do it. Like, I don't care how good of a jockey you are. You can get some runs out of horses that shouldn't make those runs, but it never lasts. But those horses that really want to win, long as you're on the same page as them, and they respect you and you respect them, I think that's when you make great horses. Like Rocco, he was for sure, when I had never been on a great horse before. I've been on some really good ones, but he was the first, like, oh wow, this is what one of those feels like. I knew that from day one. Like, I felt like as soon as I stepped foot on, walked a step forward and touched the rein, I was like, oh wow, that's what that's supposed to feel like. But then, like, Stoney, I knew he was capable, but I didn't know. It took a while before. It took 6 months before I was like, oh wow, there it is. And then Mister, he was tough. Like, Remember earlier I was talking about changing horses different directions. He went different directions. I even thought about going to the third barrel first once. But then like come September, he kind of come all at once. Come September of his 3-year-old year, it just clicked, and then he just got it. But I think it's different because those horses have all been so different. Like I said, Rocco is very insecure and very. He was confident when you were on his back, but even as a colt, he'd scream for other horses. Like when I first started riding him, like he didn't trust me. Then he stopped that after I rode him about 2 weeks, and he kind of started trusting me. And then Mister, I mean, I think he could have killed me, and he'd have still ran barrels. Like I don't think he didn't care. There was nothing in the world that was going to bother him. And then Stoney, like I said, it took him a little while to get confident. He changed so much. I think in the end, and Rocco is very confident in himself now, and like when you're running, he's very confident going down the aisleway. I think that's a big part of it, confidence in a horse, and one that, I don't know, it's just a feeling that you have in them. They just want to do it. You show them something and they figure it out. I think that's the ones that I think are the great ones. That because you train them, you kind of, I don't know, a great one, you train them, but you more so just try not to mess them up. And then like you don't ever really hammer on those ones hard. I feel like they just they're always going forward, trying to do something, making some kind of effort to do something, right or wrong, but they're always trying. I think probably that, like a long answer shorter, is ones that actually want to try to do something for you. I think that's really what makes a great one. I think I've always been pretty open-minded on trying things and talking to people and finding out different ways to do things, and staying at it and never really quitting it and trying. Like I've gotten in, I think we all go through those ups and downs of and trying not to force things. Like I know myself a lot. I'll have a bunch of horses in the barn. I'll be trying to get through them, and then you just gotta stop and think, okay, slow down, like work it out. And not trying to force things, just slow down, get smooth. And I think that's been the biggest thing, is telling myself to be smooth, like just slow everything down, and then just kind of staying at it. I think is the biggest thing. Probably learn as much as you can, watch as much as you can, get around as best the people as you can, and ask questions, really, and listen. Don't just ask questions to ask questions. Like try to take it in and understand why they're doing what they're doing, or telling you to do what you're doing. That to me would be the biggest thing. And then apply it, and don't just try it once. Try it all week. Try it 2 weeks. Give it a chance, and then kind of slow is fast, smooth is fast. Like don't try to rush things. Don't try to force anything, and just kind of stay at it and stay going with it, I believe.